So you've spent money on a rebrand recently, or maybe you're here thinking about spending money on a rebrand recently, and you've heard horror stories or you've experienced the horror of going through a rebrand, having all of the visuals and the materials and marketing collateral squared away. Everything looks really pretty, it looks sharp, it looks on point, but 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, you're still attracting the same kind of customers. You're still having problems with the sales. And for a short period of time, maybe you saw a little bit of a change, but you just feel like you're back at square one and nothing really made any kind of meaningful impact and didn't move the needle in any real way. Hey there, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Joe Hurst, and I work primarily with businesses in that $1 to $10 million plus range that have these kinds of issues, and they typically stem from positioning issues. So without any further ado, I'm going to break down why your rebrand hasn't worked recently, and you'll leave this video understanding why it hasn't worked, what went wrong, and what you can look at to move forwards and get this going in the right direction. So what does a logo actually do, and what doesn't a logo do? In a really simplified way, a logo and the majority of your design collateral expresses the brand. That distinction is everything. Design is the last layer, not the first. It's an output of a series of decisions that businesses most of the time make completely unconsciously. When you change that expression, when you change the design materials and the collateral around that, without changing what's being expressed, then nothing downstream changes. Fixing and changing the visual side of the business would be like repainting a dilapidated house with broken floorboards, terrible foundation, leaky pipes. Yeah, it would look great from the outside potentially, but you start to realize that something's not right here, or it's just one hell of a bad decision. So here's the reason that the brand redesign isn't working. First of all, brand problems show up as some form of visual dissatisfaction first, but that's usually just a symptom that's exposing positional problems underneath or something else further upstream. The symptoms often look like attracting the wrong clients and customers, always having to argue or defend your pricing with every sales call, marketing that struggles to convert and has bad ROI, or even having to over-explain yourself every time you're on a call with a potential customer. The thing is, none of that stuff is solved with design. So here's what should have happened here. I'll break this down for you really simply. Number one, I'm going to create a visual aid here. Number one is going to be positioning, and that is going to be your 3 W's. I call them the 3 W's. So 3 W's. That is going to be your who, as in who you are for. And these things you should be very specific about. The who, the what, and the why. The who is who you are specifically for. And if you feel like you're being too specific on that, you're probably not being specific enough. This is incredibly important. The what is the what problem you solve or what outcome you generate. If you can create a position where it's really clear what you do in terms of the problem that you solve and the outcome you generate, that's even better. And then last but not least is the why. Why would somebody pick you over a competitor? So the who, the what, the why. Who you serve, what you do, what the outcome is, and why someone should pick you over a competitor. Second to that is narrative. Narrative is pretty simple. Narrative is just the expression, just going to write in shorthand here, the expression of your positioning. All that's doing is expressing who, what, why in some kind of story or the way that you speak to customers or potential clients, etc. And then last but not least, which is usually where people start, unfortunately, is design. And design now has something specific to express. Because design helps express, let me change color here. Design helps express narrative and positioning, not the other way around. Your positioning and narrative do not help design. Most businesses, when they think about building a business and creating a brand, they do this backwards, and they do design, then narrative, then positioning, which is completely incorrect. What you want to do first is positioning, then narrative, then design. That's how you get clear on positioning and building a clear brand.